He built an empire based on strict rules, absolute control, and an untouchable reputation. Nothing diverted him from his goals. Nothing made him hesitate. Even her. Alice never imagined that she would become the greatest dilemma of one of the most powerful men on the market. He was her boss, unreachable, too dangerous to get close to. But when the tension between them became impossible to ignore, they both realized that they were about to cross a line of no return. One wrong choice could ruin everything, the company, his career, his reputation. But some passions are uncontrollable. Now Gabriel has to decide, keep the empire he spent years building or risk everything for the one desire he can't master. Expensive leather shoes echoed across the marble floor as Gabriel crossed the company's main hall. The employees glanced up briefly, but then looked away, returning to their work. His presence was intimidating. He didn't need to raise his voice to be respected. His sharp gaze and calculated decisions spoke for themselves. He sat down at his imposing desk and began reviewing the day's reports. Everything had to be under control. His reputation was built on discipline and perfection. In the business world, there was no room for error. "Excuse me, Gabriel." The female voice sounded firm but polite. He looked up. Alice was standing in the doorway, holding a clipboard with the day's agenda. She was dressed impeccably, without excess, but with elegance. Her professional tone and confident posture made her the perfect secretary. "Come in," he said, turning his gaze back to the papers. Alice walked over to the desk and handed him a document. "I need you to review and sign this contract before the 10 o'clock meeting." Gabriel took the paper without raising his head. "Anything else?" "Your board meeting has been brought forward to Friday. The quarterly performance report will be ready tomorrow morning." He nodded, still looking at the contract. Alice waited a moment, then turned to leave. "Alice." She stopped and turned to him. "Yes?" Gabriel looked up, watching her for a brief moment. There was something about her that intrigued him, although he couldn't explain what. "Well done." She blinked in surprise, but soon pulled her expression together. "Just doing my job, sir." And she left the room. Gabriel stared at the door for a few seconds. He wasn't used to praising employees, let alone getting lost in thought about any of them. Taking a deep breath, he went back to concentrating on the contract. But the image of Alice was still there, somewhere in the back of his mind. Gabriel was not a man who was easily distracted. He was used to making quick, cold, and strategic decisions. But over the last few days, he had noticed that his attention had wandered to one specific point: Alice. She was efficient, discreet, and never overstepped her professional boundaries. Perhaps that was exactly what intrigued him. While so many people were trying to impress him, Alice was just doing her job. That evening, during a corporate event, he saw her from afar, chatting with other employees. Her black dress was elegant, not overdone, and her hair was tied up, highlighting her face. She seemed completely at ease. When their gazes met, Alice kept her expression serene and just nodded in greeting. "Interesting." The comment came from one of the firm's partners, who noticed the exchange of glances. "Your new secretary. Professional, competent, and completely indifferent to your charm." Gabriel let out a slight smile, but didn't reply. Later that evening, when Alice stopped by to pick up a glass of wine, he called out to her. "Alice." She turned around. "Sir? Enjoying the event?" She nodded. "Yes, it's a good opportunity to get to know the company better. And what do you think so far?" Alice hesitated for a second before answering. "I think the company's success is a reflection of the way you conduct business. Your reputation is impeccable." Gabriel noticed that she chose her words carefully, without unnecessary compliments. "Reputation is everything in the business world." Alice nodded, but then added, "But it can also be a prison." Gabriel arched an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" She gave a small smile. "Just that sometimes maintaining an image can prevent someone from experiencing something real." Before he could answer, someone called Alice's name and she walked away. Gabriel stood still, watching her mingle with the other guests. For the first time in a long time, he felt that someone was challenging him, and he didn't know if he liked it or hated it. The business trip was supposed to be just another routine appointment. Gabriel didn't see anything exceptional about it until he realized that Alice would also be there. The flight was smooth, and as soon as they arrived at the hotel, the team split up. The schedule would be intense, with meetings and negotiations throughout the day. Gabriel kept his focus, but whenever Alice entered the room, he felt her presence in an unusual way. That evening, after the last meeting with investors, he was reviewing reports in his room when he received a message from Alice. "The hotel reception with clients has been cancelled. If you need anything, I'll be in the lobby." Gabriel thought for a moment before replying, "I'm on my way down." When he reached the lobby, he found Alice sitting on one of the sofas, reading something on her tablet. She looked up when she saw him approaching. "I didn't think you'd come down, sir. After a day like this, a bit of conversation seems more interesting than getting bogged down in reports." Alice smiled but kept her formal posture. "It's been a productive day. The investors seem pleased." "Yes, you've done an excellent job." She nodded. "I'm just doing my job." Gabriel leaned back on the sofa, watching her for a moment before asking, "Have you always been like this? Have you always separated your personal life from your work so rigidly?" Alice hesitated before answering. "I think so. The corporate world demands it." "What if it didn't?" Alice looked away, as if pondering the question. "I wouldn't mix things up anyway." Gabriel could see that she was firm in her decision, but he also noticed the slight hesitation in her voice. The conversation went on for a few more minutes until Alice looked at her watch. "It's already late. We should rest up for tomorrow." She stood up, and Gabriel did the same. "You're right. Good night, Alice." She smiled slightly before replying, "Good night, sir." And then she walked away, leaving Gabriel alone, with the feeling that he had just lost control of something that shouldn't even have started. Gabriel tried to ignore his growing attraction to Alice. For years, he had built his reputation on absolute control, without allowing emotions to interfere in his business. But now, everything seemed different. In the office, he watched her from afar. Alice was discreet, efficient, impeccable. She never crossed the line into professionalism, and perhaps that was exactly what intrigued him. That evening, while they were finalizing a report, the office was silent, except for the sound of keyboards. "You can go, Alice," said Gabriel, without taking his eyes off the screen. "It's past your time." "I haven't finished yet." Gabriel looked up. "You don't have to prove anything to me. I know you're competent." Alice paused for a moment before replying, "I don't do this to prove anything. I just like to deliver the best possible result." There was something in the way she said it that made him smile slightly. "That's rare." She frowned. "What?" "People who don't seek recognition. They just do the right thing." Alice gave a small smile, but looked away. "Not everything has to be a strategy." Gabriel leaned back in his chair, analyzing her. "Do you really think so?" Alice hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Unlike you, I don't see the world as a power game." Gabriel smiled sideways. "Maybe I have something to learn from you." The silence between them lasted a few seconds. Alice looked away and closed the report. "I think we're done for today." Gabriel nodded, feeling a growing desire to prolong the conversation. But Alice was already gathering up her things, standing firm in her posture. "Good night, sir." "Good night, Alice." She left, leaving Gabriel alone with the certainty that this was not just another employee. The day began like any other. Gabriel arrived at the office early, immersed in meetings and strategic decisions, but at some point he realized that his thoughts were elsewhere. Alice. Her mere presence in the environment seemed to affect him in a way he didn't fully understand. In the late afternoon, Gabriel was on the terrace of the building, drinking a coffee and observing the city, when he heard footsteps behind him. "Sir, sorry to interrupt." Alice's voice was soft but firm. He turned around. "Any news?" "I just wanted to let you know that the investment report is ready. It's on your desk." Gabriel nodded, but didn't answer right away. Alice seemed hesitant, as if she had something else to say. "Something wrong?" he asked. She took a deep breath before answering. "I don't know if I should say this, but say it." Alice stared at him for a moment before continuing. "I think you've been distracted lately." Gabriel raised an eyebrow. "Distracted?" "Yes," she said without looking away. "Is something bothering you?" He let out a slight smile. "What if I said yes?" Alice hesitated. "Then I'd say that I hope it's nothing that affects your decision-making." Gabriel laughed quietly. "You really don't mince words, do you?" "I'm just being honest." He took a deep breath and then took a step closer. "Alice." "Yes?" Gabriel looked her in the eye, the tension between them almost palpable. "If I told you that you were the cause of my distraction, what would you say?" Alice remained motionless. For a moment, Gabriel thought she was going to run away, but instead she kept her composure and answered calmly, "I'd say maybe we should keep things professional," and then, before he could react, she turned and left. Gabriel stood there, alone, knowing that this story was far from over. Alice avoided Gabriel for the next few days. She continued to carry out her duties with the same impeccable dedication, but any interaction between them was strictly professional. Gabriel noticed the change. He wasn't the type to chase after anyone, but the way Alice pulled away only made it more intriguing. He wanted to understand why it affected him so much. At the end of an important meeting, while the other executives left the room, Alice remained organizing documents. Gabriel saw the opportunity and approached her. "You've been avoiding being alone with me." Alice paused for a moment before continuing to stack the papers. "I don't know what you're talking about, sir." He crossed his arms. "Yes, you do." She took a deep breath and faced him. "I just don't think we should create situations that could be misinterpreted." "Situations like that?" he asked, taking a step closer. Alice kept her posture firm, but Gabriel noticed that her breathing became a little heavier. "Exactly like this," she said. Gabriel smiled slightly. "You feel it too, don't you?" Alice looked away. "What I feel or don't feel doesn't change the facts. And what are the facts? That you're my boss, that your reputation is untouchable, and that any involvement between us would put everything at risk." Gabriel watched her for a long moment. She was right. He knew that. But at that moment, nothing seemed more wrong than ignoring what he felt. "I don't usually take risks, Alice. But maybe you're the only thing worth taking the risk for." Alice closed her eyes for a second, taking a deep breath. "I can't do that." Gabriel nodded slowly. "That's fine. I won't insist." She looked at him, surprised by his answer. "You won't?" "No," he said. "But that doesn't mean I'm going to forget." Alice remained silent for a few seconds, then picked up the papers and left. Gabriel watched her walk away, knowing that the conversation wouldn't end there. The next few days were a test of endurance for both of them. Alice maintained her impeccable routine, avoiding any unnecessary contact with Gabriel. He, for his part, tried to carry on as normal, but her presence became increasingly difficult to ignore. One evening, after a meeting that extended beyond business hours, Alice was getting ready to leave when she heard Gabriel's firm voice. "Can we talk?" She closed her eyes for a moment before turning around. "Of course, sir." "Can you stop calling me that?" Alice hesitated. "It's the right thing to do." "The right thing for whom? For the company? For my reputation? Or for you?" She pressed her arms against her body, clearly uncomfortable. "For all of us." Gabriel took a few steps closer, keeping his gaze fixed on hers. "I can't ignore it, Alice. Not anymore." Alice sighed, looking away. "Neither can I," she confessed, almost in a whisper. Gabriel felt a momentary relief, but realized that fear still gripped Alice. So, what's the problem?" "The problem is that a relationship between us could compromise everything. If anyone finds out, they could use it against you." He crossed his arms. "And you care about that?" She stared at him intensely. "I care about you." Silence fell between them. Gabriel felt a warmth fill his chest. "Then stay with me." Alice lowered her head, fighting the emotion. "I'm afraid." Gabriel held her chin gently, making her look at him. "So am I, but I'm willing to face it." Alice hesitated for a few more seconds, but then finally gave a small smile. "I can't fight it anymore." And in that instant, Gabriel knew that she had made her decision. The leak happened subtly, like a spark that would soon become a fire. An anonymous email circulated through the company corridors, hinting at a relationship between Gabriel and Alice. At first, it was just whispers behind the scenes, curious glances and hushed whispers. But within a few hours, the news began to spread with frightening speed. Alice heard about it when a colleague called her in a corner. "Did you see that?" she asked, holding out her cell phone. Alice read the message on the screen. The impact was immediate. Her heart raced. She went straight to Gabriel's office, closing the door behind her. "Have you heard?" Gabriel was standing, holding his own cell phone. He looked up at her and confirmed it with a nod. "Yes." Alice felt her stomach turn. "What are we going to do?" "Control the situation." Gabriel kept his tone calm, but Alice noticed the firm grip on his cell phone. He was furious. "Who sent this?" "We don't know yet," he replied, "but we'll find out." Alice began to pace back and forth. "This could end everything. They'll accuse you of favoring an employee, of breaking ethical rules. I don't care what they say about me, but I do care." Gabriel watched her for a moment, then crossed his arms. "Do you want to leave?" Alice stopped, surprised. "What?" "If you want to leave the company to avoid any more problems, I understand." She hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll stay, and I'll fight it." Alice bit her lip, taking a deep breath. "I'm not going to run away." Gabriel nodded. "Then we'll face it together." Alice knew that nothing would be easy from then on. But as she looked at Gabriel, she was sure she wasn't alone. The company's board had called an extraordinary meeting. The news of Gabriel's alleged involvement with Alice had already made its way beyond the corridors to investors and members of senior management. Alice sat in the meeting room, feeling the weight of the stares on her. Gabriel, next to her, maintained an impassive expression as if nothing could shake his confidence. One of the partners, a man with a stern expression, was the first to speak. "We need to discuss the impacts of this involvement on the company's image." Alice felt her heart squeeze. "There was no favoritism," said Gabriel firmly. "Alice earned her position on her own merits." Another board member crossed his arms. "But public perception matters, Gabriel. It can affect our credibility with investors." "A company's credibility is based on results, not rumors," he replied. "And so far, there is no proof that my personal life interferes with the business." Alice admired the firmness in his voice, but knew it wouldn't be enough to calm everyone down. "Even so, exposure could lead to a crisis," insisted another partner. Gabriel looked directly at Alice before replying. "I'm aware of the risks, but I'm not going to apologize for falling in love." The silence in the room was absolute. Alice felt her chest tighten. "What are you saying?" asked one of the directors. Gabriel took a deep breath. "That I'm not going to hide what I feel. If that means facing difficulties, I'm ready." Alice held her breath. He was taking on everything right there in front of everyone. After a few tense seconds, one of the partners sighed. "The final decision will be made after we've assessed the impact of this. But be aware, Gabriel, that your reputation could be at risk." He nodded. "Understood." When the meeting ended, Alice and Gabriel left together. "You've just put everything on the line," she said. He smiled slightly. "No, I've just decided what really matters." Alice knew at that moment that she also had to make her final decision. Alice had never felt so exposed as she had over the last few days. The buzz within the company continued, the curious looks persisted, and the uncertainties still hung over her. But one thing had changed, her fear. Gabriel had already made his choice. Now it was her turn. That evening, he asked her out for dinner. The restaurant was discreet, but elegant. Alice knew it wasn't just an ordinary meal. When they sat down, Gabriel watched her for a few seconds before speaking. "Are you still afraid?" Alice took a deep breath. I am. But not of what they're going to say. He arched an eyebrow. Then what? She hesitated before answering. Allowing myself to be happy. Gabriel smiled slightly and took her hand on the table. Then I promise I won't let you get away with it. Alice felt a lump in her throat. For so long, she had put barriers between herself and what she felt, but now, looking at Gabriel, she knew she couldn't deny it any longer. I don't want to run away. Gabriel's eyes sparkled. Are you sure? She nodded, holding his hand tightly. I'm sure. Gabriel smiled and, without caring who might see, leaned in to kiss her. This time, there were no more fears or barriers. The business world would keep turning. Challenges would come. But at that moment, nothing mattered other than the fact that they had chosen each other, and in the end, that was what really made it worthwhile.